Okay, I'm going to. Couple of announcements this evening. We did have an executive session prior to the start of this meeting regarding personnel. We have our student representatives on Zoom. We also have Mrs. Diane Sullivan on Zoom tonight. And then also as a reminder, masks are still required this evening. The Springford Area Board of Education believes the community has the right to bring before the board issues and concerns they may have about items on agenda or about things in general which affect the district or their children. At the beginning of each board meeting, the Springford residents will have an opportunity to share concerns and comment about items on agenda items only. Each community member on Zoom and in person will have up to 3 minutes in which to address the board. Prior to adjournment, there will be an additional opportunity for the community to comment publicly. Again, each community member on Zoom and in person will have up to 3 minutes in which to address the board. Please note, as in past meetings, I will do my best to balance comments from those in person and from those on Zoom. All speakers are required to state their full name and at least their township or town in which they reside before making any comments. In this way, the information can be recorded for the meeting minutes. This meeting is being filmed to be broadcast on community cable channels and online. Individuals intending to speak to the board should be aware that they are being videotaped. And I respectfully ask that those individuals in attendance this evening are respectful, courteous, and civil during public comment and throughout the meeting. With that being said, I do have an amendment to agenda item 9D under programming and curriculum. And Mrs. Vizzini, I believe you have that language for the corrected language that we received from administration today. If you could share that out with us, and then the board will decide how to move forward.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to amend 9D on tonight's agenda. We would like to strike the 3-year, the language, 3-year access for iReady at $386,024 for math and reading in grades K through 8, and add in that instead a research-based math and reading intervention program for $132,324.
So that was a motion to change that language to the corrected language that Mrs. Vizzini just provided. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
Doesn't that change the other numbers? If it's cumulative, it is. Well,
It does not change the other numbers other than we will be not taking money from the unassigned funds balance.
Yes, that's the only thing that changed. If we're no longer taking money from the unfunded balance.
Any other questions or comments?
we're not taking it from unfunded, sorry.
No, because the 132,003 comes from the ESSER, from the grant money. That was the money that was covered by the ESSER. So we're not asking anymore for extra. We're not going for the expense of iReady. So we don't need any money from the unassigned fund balance.
So this has changed from last week? The math of it?
No, we're just not asking to spend unassigned funds.
That's correct. And it takes it from the total of the 1.4 down back to 1.2, $1,210,530, because we're no longer asking for money that's not covered by the ESSER funds.
Correct.
And we can talk about this more later in the agenda when we vote on the item. At this point, I would just like to modify the agenda item if we could have support for that.
Could it?
It needs to be modified correctly.
if you're changing the motion, you're changing multiple different numbers in that motion. It's not just the 386, it's the 1.4 is changing. So there's more changes to that motion than just that one thing.
Mrs. Fazzini, do you have the exact language? If not, I do have that here.
Okay, go ahead. I just had the last line.
Okay, I'll read it out then in full. Administration recommends the approval of the district learning loss plan and budget as presented. The district learning loss plan is not to exceed $1,210,530 and will be paid from the ARP ESSER grant, $871,755. Previously allocated plus $338,775 new funds from the 7% set-aside grant recently awarded. The learning loss plan includes the following: summer RAMs up to $800,000, summer school supports for ELD and Educare not to exceed $90,165, Gateway not to exceed $42,000, SEL emotional support $72,595, SEL training not to exceed $25,050, after school tutoring $48,396, and a research-based math and reading intervention program not to exceed, I believe, the $132,324,000. So that is the exact language that is replacing the current language that is on the agenda. And we can get into the nuts and bolts and probably refer to Dr. Murray to have a further explanation when we go to vote on the agenda item. But that is the exact language that we're using to replace the item that is currently on the agenda. Are there any other questions or comments before we take a vote on that? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Do we have to take public, is Mark on? Do we have to take the comments before we vote, Mark, on changing the agenda?
On amendments to the agenda, no. All you are doing is amending the agenda. You will then take public comment on the underlying motion, but amendments under the changes to the Sunshine Act, no.
Thank you. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. That item is changed. Okay, then moving on, we will take public comment now. Are going to start with Zoom, as I do try to balance comments from those in person and those on Zoom. So we'll start on Zoom. Rich, do we have anyone tonight? Not at this time? Okay. Anyone in the room on agenda items only?
Could I remind our audience that they need to wear masks?
Yes, please. At this time, we are still
Everybody
requiring
in the
masks, as
audience?
I said in the beginning of this meeting.
Hi, good evening. Mary Jo McNamara, 187 Abbey Drive, Royersford, PA. I would just like to comment on agenda item 9D, or the amended motion. So I just hope to hear discussion about what exactly a research-based math and reading intervention plan is. And is it K-8? Is it high school? What does it entail? So when that comes up for vote, it would be nice. We had a really long discussion last week, so it would be nice if it was just a little bit more informative so that the community is aware of kind of what the 132K, which I know that we have to spend because it's the remainder of the ESSERs. And then what are we doing with the 254? I guess it's just not coming from unassigned, so it sits there. And then maybe a review of exactly what the 7%, we didn't get the presentation that was done last week. So maybe if you could pop that up again. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
James Chapman, 199 North Limerick Road. I want to talk about the public to be heard, just something that came out in court recently, Wednesday, November 17th, 2021, federal court ordered the school board to allow critics to speak at the school board meetings. Alan Grulich, Institute for Free Speech, Vice President of Litigation. Parents and speakers have the First Amendment right to criticize school policies and officials at public meetings. He also said, we encourage Americans who have been silenced under policies like Pennsburg to contact us for help. Maybe I should call somebody. But But just to let you know, critical think, being allowed to speak critically at voted officials should be allowed, and it is gonna happen again tonight, so.
Do we have anyone else in the room that wants to make a comment? Okay, then we'll close public comment at this point, and we will, I'm sorry? Okay, we're going to move on to then the presentations, and Mr. McDaniel.
Okay.
You're here with us for A through H on the
Good e-
agenda for presentation.
All right, good evening. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity, excuse me, to recognize our fall sport champions and our undefeated middle school teams. So I'd like to start first with Mia Matrosino. Mia is a sophomore, and she is undefeated in 2 years in the Pioneer Athletic Conference matches, and she won her second PAC singles championship this year by a score of 6-3 and 6-1. She qualified them for the PIAA District 1 Girls Singles Tournament, and she has had 2 fantastic years under head coach Todd Reagan, assistant coaches Devin Stano and Karen Canuso. So I want to congratulate Mia once again on a fantastic year. That's right. It was my goal to be quick tonight, but here we go. Next is our girls tennis team, who won their 5th PAC championship this season and they had a record of 11 wins and 0 losses. And they finished off their undefeated season when they defeated Pope John Paul II 7-0. Once again, they advanced to the PIAA District 1 tournament and also qualified for the state tournament again up in Hershey, and ended up losing in the semifinals, but a fantastic year by the players and our coaches, Todd Reagan, Devin Stano, and Karen Canuso. So congratulations to our girls tennis program. Next is our girls golf team. Head coach John Brennan and assistant coach Tim Hughes. They were also 11-0 in the league and winning the Pioneer Athletic Conference. And they defeated Phoenixville 160-192 in the final match to clinch the championship. This is their second Pioneer Athletic Conference in school history. Congratulations to our girls tennis team, our girls golf team. Next is our boys golf team. Head coach Jerry Hollingsworth, assistant coaches Dan Butterweck, Jason Marcellus. They were able to win the 2021 Pioneer Athletic Conference by defeating Owen J. Roberts in the championship of the Final Four with a score of 190-191, a 1-stroke victory. This was the 7th championship in school history for our boys golf team. So congratulations to our boys golf team. Luke Fazio was the Pioneer Athletic Conference individual champion this year, and he shot a 73 1 over par for 18 holes to win the championship. He also qualified for the PIAA District 1 and the PIAA State Tournament. So congratulations to Luke. Now our middle school sport teams who were undefeated this fall season. First is our 7th grade girls volleyball team, our head coach Gabby Drummer. He finished 11-0. And in volleyball middle school, it's the best of 3 matches. They won every match 2-0 and did not lose 1 game all year. So fantastic for 7th grade. Our 8th grade girls volleyball finished the season 11-0. It's going to sound like a broken record, but they also did not lose one game in any match this year, and they finished 11-0. Our coaches are Julia Avens for 8th grade. So congratulations to our 8th grade girls volleyball team. Our 7th grade field hockey team was 8-0-1. Their head coach is Marissa Moley. In those, the one tie was 0-0. In the other 8 games, they did not give up a goal either. They did not give up one goal the entire season. So on these 3 middle school teams that went undefeated, there's a constant theme. No one scored on them. That's pretty fantastic. So congratulations to our 7th grade field hockey team. And that's my report, my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniel, for presenting all of those tonight for all of those students. And it's unfortunate that we do not have them here tonight, but I would like to see them in January. So I have asked if that would be possible, and I think we can have them come in January and congratulate them in person. Thank you so much for that. And I think we're now moving on to Mr. Fink with our budget presentation. Mr. Fink.
Thank you, everyone, for having me here tonight. I'm sure this will be far more exciting than what just happened. Of course, it won't be, but. So tonight we're going to talk about the proposed preliminary budget for the 2022-2023 school year. As I've stated before, at this time of the year, this is when we get our budget rolling for the coming year. A few agenda items. We'll take a walk through the budget timeline, which is quite lengthy. As we have to adhere to the Act 1 time schedule, which is pretty plotted out for us and mandated by law. And this is really step 1 in that process. We'll go through some challenges on preparing this budget, especially so early in the year. We'll talk a little bit about the highlights in both sides of the ledger, the expense side and the revenue side. And then we'll close it off with next steps. So today is our public presentation, as was reviewed and discussed at the Finance Committee meeting earlier this month. I think that was on the 9th. From here, we will put the budget out on the Form 2028, which is a PDE form for public inspection. We'll do the proper notices. And then the checkbox item for Act 1 in the stage is for the board to adopt that budget on January the 24th at the board meeting. Again, like I said, this is a checkbox item that we have to do at the time of the year so that we can roll out the whole calendar of moving forward. From there, we'll talk about the referendum exceptions. We'll file for those and we'll post for those. I'll get more into the dollar amounts of those in a little bit. If the board was to decide to do a referendum question, meaning if we thought that we would have to go beyond what the Act 1 index is, we would have to get that submitted by March the 18th. And then we roll into our final budget process, which begins in the latter part of April to the end of May, and as has been done in the past, we target the adoption of the final budget at the end of May, at the May board meeting, as this provides enough time for the business office, the tax collectors, the printers, and so on to tie out all of those numbers, get the bills prepared, mailed by the July 1st deadline. So the challenge is, I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, but we have very little data on the current budget that we're going through that we just passed a few months ago. And I can tell you that having worked in private industry for such a long time, we normally wouldn't look at these things probably till we had at least 6 months of data and saw how programs were rolling out. We're only at 2 months in our operating school year, so there's not a lot to go through. The data that we look at today is from the 7-year rolling financial forecast that we've done, which lays a lot of this stuff out based on short and long-term assumptions. The one thing that I don't have on this list that I am concerned about is inflation. We've been reading about it, we've been living it. It's up there in certain sectors. So We prepare our budget, or excuse me, our forecast model based on the normal Federal Reserve targets, which is about 2% inflation a year. And, I'm sorry, Tom's pointing at me saying, you didn't roll it. There we go. So the Fed Reserve targets about 2% inflation a year. We know now in certain sectors we're up, between 4 and 6% in certain sectors. And fuel is certainly one that's gone a little bit higher than that. From the state side, we don't know typically early on what the state is thinking. As far as what their budget goes, their budget would probably be passed after our budget's passed. And that's just a by law thing for us. And the other thing is, of course, this is an election year, so I'm not sure if we're going to see any more talk about charter reform, property tax reform, those types of things. But let's take a look at the expense side of the budget. Look at some of the major highlighted items there. As has been typical over the years, our wages and benefits account for about 68 to 70% of the total budget. When we look at just organic growth on the professional salaries, we're looking at an increase year over year of about 1.76 million. And admin and support wages, we're looking at an organic increase of about 500,000. For additional wages due to growth needs and growth in areas, and then just overall growth in the projections, we're looking at potentially $560,000 of additional professional monies and another $450,000 of support staff monies. Looking at the taxes and benefits side of it, which is the other half or other portion of the wages, the personnel costs, the mandated increase in the PSERS factor is expected to be 35.44%. That was their initial number. I don't have the final number, but using the they have there, that's about a $1.5 million increase. And that's just organic. On the medical and health insurance, self-funded insurance, Mrs. Lisa and I met with Rischini, our consultants in that field. We had our first pass that looks like about a $200,000 to $250,000 increase somewhere in there. We will have our second pass end of February, early March, so we'll be able to tie in a lot closer on whatever that number is going to be. And then payroll taxes increases from the growth we just showed up above, about $480,000 year over year. So if we look at the side-by-side view of the preliminary budget as it exists now versus the final budget that we're working through right now, we're living right now, you can see the differences in the categories that we have. My focus always goes all the way down to that bottom right corner where I see, expected, at least at this point, increases of about 4.45%. I'm going to come back to that number a little bit later. You can see some of the other increases in other services have to do with our transportation contract, which will level off the year after next. Again, I'm concerned about fuel costs for running 77 buses, big buses every day. That's going to have an impact. And there's a small increase in debt service that's this year that levels off year after next. We're looking at our participation with the Western Center, which cost goes up as our ADMs there go up. That's directly related to our student participation, which is great that grows all the time. And then some smaller increases in some of our capital plan and equipment and that type of thing. If I flip over to the revenue side of the ledger, we're looking at the trend still continues where real estate assessments are maintaining about a 1.5% increase year over year. That would add about $1.7 million to our revenue line. We are seeing a decrease in our delinquent tax inventories. That's basically because people are paying their taxes on time more, and so I don't have as much back taxes to collect. So we're expecting a decrease there of about $300,000, and we haven't seen recovery on interest rates yet. I know the Fed's going to act at some point soon as I continue to read about that, but we haven't seen it yet. So year over year, I'm expecting a little bit of a drop there. On the state side, we are expecting an increase based on what we receive from the state for the basic education funding. That subsidy of about $885,000. Transportation, we're expecting a little bit of an increase. I'm always hesitant on that one, but we're looking at the charts are showing us about 200. And then, of course, our offset subsidy for the PSERS, so it's a retirement, and the FICA tax credit from the state of about $890,000 because we're spending more on personnel, as we discussed before. So if I look at the revenues side by side with the preliminary budget for 22-23, final budget for this current year that we're working through, you can see those numbers as they go. And I'm looking, my target on this page typically is, I'm looking at that 1.79%, which is our organic growth in our revenues. So earlier I talked about 4.45% increase on the tax on the expense side, then a 1.8% increase on the revenue side, and that's where your gap comes in, right? Just a difference in the rate of that growth. So when we look at what our gap actually is at this point, keeping in mind there's a lot of work to do over the next number of months, we're looking currently at a budget gap of about $6.4 million. So that's something that we'll be working through over the next couple of months as we progress, and we'll be talking about that endlessly, I'm sure, in finance, of course. Just to wrap up some points that we had, I'm sure, if I recall correctly, Mr. DeBello did report to the board in one of his finance committee reports that the Aquin index for next year is 3.4%. You could see they were looking for inflation as well. We have estimated that our referendum exceptions, which we're really only qualifying for the special ed one at this time, of about $650,000. That equates to about 55 basis points of tax impact. So when you look at those two things combined, without having to go to referendum, you're talking about a little under 4% that you have to work with if needed. So the next steps, obviously the deep dive, sharpen the pencil, start building from the ground up once again. Again, doing that checkbox item at the end of January to have the board adopt this so we can keep rolling forward and keep on the timeline as required to by law. We'll file for our referendum exceptions, and then we'll be back here talking once again. Any comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Fink. We look forward to seeing you back to, work on those numbers and see where we can get and keep an eye. It's going to be very important to keep an eye on the timeline and the dates that are coming up. Any actions that need to be filed, paying attention to those dates and the timeline.
It's gonna be a bumpy road,
That it is.
bumpy road. Hopefully we got some ESSER money.
I don't think we have any extra money left. I'm going to say that Dr. Merrick stole all of our ESSER money. We have our student reps on Zoom. Rich, are they available? Allison and Aditi? Rich, sorry, are Allison and Aditi available on Zoom to give a student rep report?
We do not have anything to add to last week's report other than Thanksgiving break for students commenced last Friday. And unless Aditi has anything to add, that's really all we have for tonight.
Yep, and I just wanted to add, we had our final parent-teacher conferences tonight. So, but I think I'll leave out the rest. But thank you.
Well, thank you, ladies, and enjoy your Thanksgiving break. Okay, just a quick summary of our last community relations meeting. We met on Wednesday, November 3rd. Ms. Crew reviewed the ongoing speaker series and parent workshops, provided some website updates. The committee also had a discussion about options for trademarking various Springford logos. We had just a quick reference to also a couple of items that were there. A thanks to Mrs. Bazzini for remaining at meetings. And also that's happened a couple of times. Thank you for that. And I also asked community relations to reconsider the Zoom option for committee meetings. And we had a community member asking some questions about linking to external sites of resources available on the website That's being thoroughly vetted as well. And our next meeting will be held in January of 2022. Are there any comments or questions about that content? Okay, moving on, extracurricular, Mr. Schaefer.
So the extracurricular committee meeting was held on Monday, November the 8th. Mr. McDaniel presented a lot of the accomplishments which were updated. And so I won't restate them. However, he did, during his presentation, mentioned a few things that I felt for the public and also my colleagues on the board. So busing has been a significant challenge due to a variety of obvious reasons. There's a concern for next year as transportation and logistics will continue to be a concern along with officials. And this is not just a Springford or local issue. These are national concerns. And challenges for coaches and coaching positions continue to, be of concern. So that I want to bring everyone's attention to that. In the middle school fall sports report, which was given by Mr. Seislav, besides some of the accomplishments, there was an increase in participants, and so that was good to hear. The discussion of some potential new sports was introduced, boys volleyball, which we'll of course talk through. And the estimate was around $26,000 to support having a new program introduced here at Springford. The potential of another 7th grade football team. And then on the high school activities side of things, great news to report sort of in general. Attendance for the clubs is up above 2019 levels. And so that was great from my perspective. And we had participants from the high school play, which has already happened, Cinderella, attend, and they provided an introduction, and that obviously has already transpired in a successful event. So Dr. Teresa Carboy, principal at Rochefort, presented on some of the activities that were happening in her school. Highlights here. So they have a secret agents club where they invite 4th graders who aren't in other activities to participate. They also have a walking club, which I've learned is also in all elementary schools. And they have Walking Wednesday, where prior to school, everybody gets together, and it's an opportunity for kids to connect. And she played a video. It was really, really neat to see. So Doug Rigner presented about the needs of having more clubs, which again is I think it's a positive, but that does come with a price tag. There'll be, and I'm not sure if I saw it on on tonight's agenda, but they're seeking, or we may be seeking, the addition of 5 more faculty club positions, which is a total of $2,000 in spending. And then one last thing, I'd like to say congratulations to Mickey McDaniel. For those that don't know, this past Friday, Mickey was inducted to the Tri-County chapter of the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame. And that's a heck of an accomplishment. I know a lot of people were there to celebrate him. And I heard his welcome speech was memorable. Also, Tim Hughes is being honored into the Montgomery County Coaches Hall of Fame for his success in softball. And I would just like to thank Miss Melton for her years of service on the committee. And I greatly appreciated the opportunity to serve with you. And the meeting adjourned at 8:40.
Congratulations from Mr. McDaniel and Mr. Hughes. Hey, any questions or comments for Mr. Schaefer? All right, next then, we have finance, and I think Mr. Jackson, had covered that meeting for Mr. DeBello. Do you have an update on that and right into property then?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Executive report for October 31st. Liquidity, the balance is at 135 million, 3 million higher than last year. Revenue, real estate collections have leveled off to expectations, and we're on pace with the budget. All revenues are pacing as planned overall. Expenditures, all general on pace with expectations. Salaries and benefit lines are about 200,000 under budget year to date. Real estate transfer tax revenue, it's about $86,000 left to meet the target. July, August was mostly carryover from the 2021 fiscal year, approximately $700,000 to $800,000. We're looking at numbers for the budgets going forward using the 5-year trend analysis and discounting this year to flatten the bubble. Earned income taxes are on pace roughly with the prior year with budget expectations overall up about $90,000 over this time last year. The self-funded health insurance is back on par at a break-even point. Keep an eye on a few dollars, which could exceed the stop loss ceiling about $275,000 from last year. Food service, year to date, we've served about 194,000 meals versus 95,000 of last year, primarily due to kids being back in school. The a la carte sales are up 124,000 over last year due to students and staff being back in the building. Year sales are up $692,000 in total revenue, 340,000 in expenditures due to full operations this year versus last year. Mr. Fink went over the preliminary budget, but we discussed the index is 3.4. As he mentioned, the preliminary budget is a process of a long-term forecast model, and this is going to be going on until May. Currently, we're looking at a $6.4 million gap to fill, which equates to a 5.47 tax rate increase. Last year, we started out at 6.32 with a 7.2 million gap. And that completes my report for finance.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Are there any questions for Mr. Jackson before he moves on to property based on the information he shared about the finance, which complemented Mr. Fink's presentation? Is there anything more? All right, Mr. Jackson, property.
All right, property, Madam President. Discussions, McNally Stadium is complete. We're going through the final inspection now with the appropriate township inspectors. There was discussion regarding the boiler status replacement at Limerick Elementary, and the final inspection has occurred. It's a week ago, November 17th. We discussed the pre-bid walkthrough for phase 2 of the flat roof replacement at the 9th grade center. The high school gym floor insurance claim, which is a board item for approval. We discussed the repair status and how the scope increased, and that increased scope of work will be increased to the claim, which will be shown on the agenda today. There was further discussion regarding precision human resources recruiting efforts for the Collegeville, Royersford area. We also discussed current in-state maintenance custodial vacancies. There was also discussion regarding the annual environmental evaluation of 4 schools with the consultant as a component of the indoor environmental quality program. On the school police and emergency management, to date, we have 37 S2SS tips this year, 27 since August 12th. There was Chief Board is applying for the PDE grant for safety and security communications equipment at 33 radios. The school police taser training is scheduled for February of 2022. And that concludes my report for property.
Mr. Jackson, can you elaborate on the gym a little bit? I understand those numbers have changed, the scope of work has changed, but I also am to understand that the additional cost is still going to be absorbed by the insurance claim, correct? With no additional cost to the district?
Yes, there's additional scope based on further investigation of the floor and the moisture readings. And all the additional cost is being picked up by the insurance company. There is no cost to the district.
Is there a date of completion or expected completion for that work?
I would defer to Mr. Hunter. It's a slow process right now, but
Our revised completion date is January 4th.
Okay, so when we come back from the holiday break, that should be completed and,
That is correct.
okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Mr. Jackson on property? Okay, legislative, I believe Dr. Wright went for Mrs. Melton. No report this morning, okay. And Mr. DeBello, MCIU.
I wasn't able to attend, but I believe the notes were sent out to the board.
Please check those out in the board portal. And then Mr. Schaefer, PSB.
Briefly, thank you. So just touching on a few things. So just to make sure everybody's aware, the PSBA in October voted to leave the National Association, the National School Board Association, due to, among other things, referring to parents as domestic terrorists. And so these comments led to our state association just sort of separating from the national. And this time of year, welcoming new board members and re-elected board members, there's required training. It's complimentary. That's the good news. And it can be found at mypsba.org, or, y'all go to the website, but there are 5 hours of required new training for new school directors and 3 hours required for re-elected. And that is my update.
Mr. Schaefer, you and I did that when we were reelected, the 3 hours. And I believe the other new board members, Mrs. Earl, Mrs. Fazzini, and Dr. Wright had done the 5 hours. So that's still in place. And also, am I to understand, Mr. Rizzo, you've shared a couple of items also that are out there?
That is correct. The IU has pulled together some trainings for all board members, whether they be new or continuing. If anybody's interested, that was shared and will continue to be shared if you are interested.
Okay, thank you. And now we're going to do something a little bit different with our superintendent report. But before Mr. Rizzo goes in that direction, there are a couple of housekeeping items that you're going to share with us.
Yeah, just a couple of very quick things. First, I want to congratulate our athletic department for receiving the Silver Whistle Award for the 14th year. Each year, the Norristown chapter football officials select a school to be awarded the Silver Whistle Award. There's only one school chosen within District 1 to be awarded this designation by Norristown chapter. Congratulations to the athletic department. Next, Mr. Schaefer kind of already did this, but I'm going to give a little more information if that's okay. First, I'd like to talk about our Hall of Famers. So this past Friday night, girls basketball coach and athletic director Mickey McDaniel was inducted into the 43rd class of the Tri-County Area Chapter of the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame. Coach McDaniel guided the girls basketball program as an assistant coach for 18 years before he took over as head coach in 2013. Coach McDaniel, a 1973 Springfield graduate, helped lead the team to 10 PAC championships, 3 state final appearances, and 1 state championship. As athletic director, Coach McDaniel started 9 new athletic programs and has helped direct 82 PAC championships and 75 sportsmanship awards. Congratulations, Coach McDaniel. Our next Hall of Famer tomorrow night, Tim Hughes, girls softball coach, will be inducted into the Montgomery County Coaches Hall of Fame. Coach Hughes led the softball program to 12 Pac-10 championships and 2 district championships. With an overall record of 449 to 116 to 1. His team had an undefeated 2021 regular season. Coach Hughes has already been inducted into the Tri-County Area Chapter of the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame. And again, we congratulate Coach Hughes. And while she has been with us roughly a day a week, we would like to invite Dr. Tina Giambattista to the podium to talk a little bit about special education, as the board requested an update last week on how things are moving. So Dr. Giambattista, welcome to the podium.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. I'd like to first begin by thanking everyone for allowing me the opportunity to be here. I'm not officially here. I will officially be here on Monday, but I am grateful and I'm very excited to begin my journey here in Springford. So at the last school board meeting on Monday evening, one of the items that came up towards the end of the evening was, where do we stand with the parent district group, the support group? And I believe at the time it's called a parent council. So at the end of that meeting, I reached out to both Katie Davis and one of the other supervisors, Amy Tiller, and wanted to find out where we stood with that. That being said, we scheduled a meeting with the parents on this past Friday, and I wanted to give you an update of what occurred during that meeting, the contents of the meeting, and some action steps that we are going to be moving forward with. So with that being said, on Friday, we met at around 3 o'clock via Zoom. All the supervisors were there. Both Amy's, our new special ed supervisor, Chris, Katie, myself, and about 5 parents who reside in the district. There was an additional parent that no longer has a student within the district, but does run a nonprofit organization outside of the district and wasn't heavily involved in a parent group when her child was a student here. She works under the capacity of the A team. I'm not sure if parents would recall that, but her name is Nancy Chrisman, and she joined us and was very helpful. So a couple of the other parents who attended as well, one returned back from Texas and she was involved in a parent committee in her district in Texas and had some insight and some encouraging thoughts about where we're going to go as a district here in Springford. And then we have another parent who is involved in a community in Montgomery County, not necessarily a parent advisory council, but a Montgomery County association. So I wanted to get a sense of what the parents were looking for with respect to parent groups and or advisory councils, and if they were looking more for a formalized group. Because as it stands, the formal group of within a school district is, we used to call it CPAC, Special Education Parents Advisory Council. And while it's not mandated in Pennsylvania, it is mandated in other states. My former experience in both North Penn and Wissahickon, I've been involved in both types of associations. North Penn was a thriving advisory council, a CPAC group. Wissahickon, for the years that I was there, it went smoothly for a few years, but due to low enrollment, it ended up folding, and those parents joined a residing neighborhood districts CPAC group. So that being said, I thought it was important for our supervisors and myself to gauge what are the parents looking for here. Are they looking for just a forum for support with perhaps videos and resources, a web page, both of which we have already started to do under the direction of the communications department, and our supervisors have already made a couple of videos that are accessible to parents. Or are they really looking more for something more formalized in a CPAC organization? With that being said, and if they want to do something that way, that takes a lot of organization, commitment, and goals and mission, mission statements. So it's a lot more comprehensive than just establishing a website for parents. That being said, it was a fruitful conversation. We had a lot of good ideas. At that point, we didn't really get into the nuts and bolts of what it's going to look like. Prior to the meeting on Friday, I had distributed a toolkit. It's actually a comprehensive guide for establishing and creating a special education advisory committee. So all of the parents that were on the Zoom call, the ladies, they have access to it. We are going to have our next meeting is set to be the second week of December, because obviously the next week is the first week, and we want to give parents ample time to make arrangements to attend. We have to find a location to have the meeting, because we do want to invite more than just the core team of people that we had on Friday. So that being said, we have a scheduled meeting for the second week in December. During that meeting, we are going to likely create a mission statement. We're going to develop some goals, framework out some timelines, targeted dates, and really define what our grassroots group is going to look like for this year. And the only stumbling block that we have right now, I have to look into securing space, making sure that parents who would like to attend can attend. And that is myself working with the director of communication on how we're going to get that to parents once the date has been defined and it doesn't conflict with anything else that's going on in the district. So in a nutshell, that's basically the update that I have for you right now. I'm excited as, the new special ed liaison coming into this position. The supervisors are equally excited. We recognize that this is a parent-driven group, but it's also an opportunity for us to collaborate with our parent network and develop some trainings and help parents, matriculate into the field of special education comfortably. And that's all I have for this evening. Does anyone have any questions?
Just quick question, and thank you for that. I've been asking, since I'm the person that originally brought this to the board and wanted to see this get off the ground, it's encouraging to see that the ball's starting to move forward. I guess I'm concerned about one thing that you mentioned. From when I talked to some other places that did this, they started off with a core group of parents that formed, the mission, the vision, all that laid out, like, what is the group, what, the objectives of the group and all this other kind of stuff. But it was a smaller group, it wasn't, I don't know, like a group of things that we do here, like 57 people. So I am concerned when I hear that we're going to start opening it up, because if you end up with a large group of parents before this thing even materializes, it's not going to go anywhere. Because you're going to end up with, you could potentially end up with 50, 60, 80, 90 parents that want to participate, but you don't have a foundation, you don't have anything in place to drive what this initiative is really for. And when I talked with the parents that brought this up, they really do have good ideas and concepts of what they believe this to be or could be. So when you talk about including, and I'm not saying it has to be a very small group of people, but when you talk about adding more, what does that look like?
That's a great question. And one of the parents during the meeting on Friday wanted to just be able to extend that invitation to other parents to attend the kickoff meeting. The kickoff meeting actually is going to be very focused, regardless of whether there's 20 parents there or 30. It's going to be guided with very dictated tasks to do. From there, once the goals are developed and established, the mechanism to the different types of parent forums will likely be shaped different ways, meaning you may not have 50 or 60 showing up at a training if it's a specific training for parents who have children who have autism. And I understand that we can't control how many parents would like to attend at the onset, but I didn't want to discourage anyone from wanting to be part of the beginning of the process. I agree that people should have a voice, and especially the parents that aren't, the ones that aren't likely inclined to come out and want to provide some insight to what they're looking for in this type of organization for parents. So I don't anticipate an enormous amount of people, but I don't know at this time until we can gauge how many parents may be in attendance until we put it out there and actually have a date.
Right, and so, because we're already doing instructional stuff, the Zoom sessions that we have and all that, that's over here.
Yeah.
What we're talking about over here was this parent advisory special education group, what was created by parents, driven by parents, and it was their way to have a more formalized interaction, not only with each other, but then have planned interactions with this special education group, or supervisors and yourself. So the two separate entities. What could come out of that one entity is that questions or ideas for future presentations and that are over here, but the way I understood it was this was a group for parents to basically have the ability to get together, talk about ideas and concepts and help form what could be presented back to through the interactions with the special ed supervisors. Is that the direction it's going? Am I misreading what you're saying, or is it kind of all mumbled together?
It depends on, so each CPAC committee is unique to the district and the district's needs. So I agree with you in the sense that we have already started with the videos and the parent resources. Some of the other resources that I sent out to the ladies that were with us on Friday were websites from other neighboring CPAC groups. A few were in New Jersey, and they had, just like the videos that we have already established, they were available as a resource on their CPAC page. And they had clearly defined training dates. For example, if there was a speaker coming in from Patton or Peel to talk about functional behavior assessments, that was clearly defined on the actual website. And that's the type of, those are the types of trainings that we have to determine what they're looking for, almost a needs assessment when we develop our framework for action planning. So I guess what you're asking me is, yes, it's two separate things, but it's really one, because all of what we've already been doing is we're going to find the mechanism to make it available to parents who may not be within this group, but they can also attend a specific training in April if it benefits them with respect to their own child who has special needs.
Yeah, and that makes sense. The only thing, again, I'm going to say is that if you open it up too big, too soon, before you have a foundation in place, it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, it's just the way things happen. I mean, you got to start off with a manageable small group of people that are driven and dedicated to actually making this happen. And then figure out how, after our foundation's put in place, then how I'm not saying you exclude anybody long-term, but you have to get that foundation in place before you just open it up to, large volume of people.
Understood.
Let's follow up on that and maybe hear
Sure.
more at our next meeting, because I agree with Mr. DeBello that I would think you have your core group. So maybe you take that group and do the mission statement and set the goals and the timeline, and then maybe expand it out from there and grow it a little bit. But maybe to take that core group that seems committed to working on this process, to kind of lay the groundwork to get things going. But that would just be something that's, I'm thinking, and let's see, where it goes from here.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, and then we're going to move into go ahead.
One more announcement, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. The next thing I'd like to do, and I did not get a chance to say this earlier, is we do have some retirements that are kind of mid-year retirements. I want to make sure we catch them. First, cafeteria manager at Royersford, Nancy Ruoff, with 30 years of service. Connie Iannetta, who is works at the Future Planning Center at the Senior High School with 16 years of service. Susan Peter, intermediate building as an instructional assistant for 19 years. And ninth grade custodian Arnold Kohler is retiring after 18 years. Combined, those four have 83 years of service. We want to wish them well and congratulate them.
That is a great piece that you do, Mr. Rizzo, where you do honor the retirees. Love hearing that each time. And we're going to now have a special report, and that will close our board and committee reports, as Mr. Fitzgerald does not have a solicitor report. So Mr. Rizzo and I are going to go to the podium.
Good evening. Tonight is the last meeting for Mr. Tom DeBello, Ms. Linda Fazzini, and Ms. Christina Melton. Serving on a board of school directors is a very important responsibility and often thankless, undoubtedly so in the last 20+ months. Simply put, you will be missed. Thank you for your commitment to our students and challenging us to continue to grow. Thank you for standing beside our families to help us navigate through this pandemic. Thank you for the courage to share your thoughts about what is best for our students, even when it may not have been a popular opinion. And lastly, more personally, thank you for supporting me over the last year as I transitioned to the superintendency. You have all left an indelible mark on our community and our schools. We wish you the very best as you begin your next chapter. And I'd like to invite Ms. Melton, Ms. Zasowski over to add some comment to that.
Low enough.
Get a stool.
I want to thank you all for your service to Springford. There are many, many words of thanks that I would like to say to each of you, especially during the last 20 months that we've had together. Linda, thank you for always being willing to stay for committee meetings and for consistently providing thorough reports at all of our board meetings. Christina, thank you for taking on the role of vice president this year and for engaging in deep, thoughtful discussions at the table. Actually, that goes out to all of you. That gratitude is extended to each and every one of you. And Tom, you and I have often wanted to get to the same place. Sometimes, though, we travel different routes. And I thank you for your leadership, your dedication to and accomplishments in this district, so many to name. I will remember you as a mentor and as a friend, and I wish you all three of you, I wish you well in the future with everything that you plan to do with your families, with your future goals. And thank you for the privilege of being able to serve with you. And with that, we have a special guest speaker tonight.
The Springford Board of School Directors generously contributes their time and talents toward advancing public education from kindergarten through grade 12.
We'll go to the video in just a minute. First, we have our guest speaker.
Joe, you may speak.
All right, I think I'm on now.
You're on.
Okay. Well, I wish I could be there tonight with all of you. Fortunately, I had another engagement that took me too late, and I'm doing this from home. This is Joe Cerisi. I don't know if you could see me. It looks like I'm just an icon on the phone I have on here. But I wanted to thank the three members tonight who will be leaving the board. To be a school board member is a special dedication that you have for your community, for time, for commitment. I didn't get to work a lot with Linda. Linda and I met when she came to a meeting at my house many years ago and decided she was going to run for school board. I don't know if you remember that, Linda. It was a great thing to be able to do, and the dedication you gave this district will be remembered for a long time to come, especially over these last year and a half plus. Christina, you and I know each other probably closest to 18, maybe 17 years. I was proud to have you take my seat on the board. Thank you so much for your service, for your dedication, always being on, giving your opinion everywhere and making sure that these kids and every child has everything they need. For you and your whole family, for Bill and the kids, thank you for your dedication and the time you've given Springford. And it has meant a huge difference to our community. And I know that you'll still be around to help this district. To Tom DeBello, there's so much I can say. It is a very moving night. Tom, I want you to know that sitting right next to me, which you can't see at my desk, is the Ram that you will get tonight. It's something that I remember the day we put this in. The day we put this into to give away to each school board member and what we thought about it. This is a great honor. The accomplishments you've been able to accomplish over the 12 plus years you've served on that board. And as we serve together over the time on that board and things that we changed for this district, I am wearing my Springford shirt that has the logo. I remember when we sat in a meeting and heard from Alan Roach that we had 37 logos, and we finally came up with one that worked. Your commitment to Springford will always be remembered. I will always remember the work that we did together as a board and how we moved this district to be one of the top districts, not only in Pennsylvania, but in the United States. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud to have served alongside you for the 8 years that we were there and moving this district. I want to thank all of you. The commitment to runs for school board, who serves on a school board, is a great commitment because you know the salary is very high. It's a thankless job you hear all the time, but it's far from thankless. It means a lot to the community. And when you leave that board, you should all feel proud of the commitment you made and the changes you made for each one of our students. So I wish you all luck. I know I'll be seeing you all in the community, and I look forward to the day we could all sit together and have a work together again.
Thank you, Joe. I know those words to all three of our board members mean so very much. Okay, and with that, now we can go to the video. Thank you.
The Springford Board of School Directors generously contributes their time and talents toward advancing public education from kindergarten through grade 12. The Springford Board of School Directors generously contributes their time and talents toward advancing public education from kindergarten through grade 12.
All right. So perhaps while they work on a technological glitch, we will move on to the presentation of the grant.
Mr. Tom DeBella, if you could come to the podium. Mr. DeBella, thank you for your 12 years of service to the district. We wish you well. Oh, sorry. How are we doing this?
No, you're gonna give it to him. He's gonna go in.
Where am I standing?
Not yet. We're gonna stand at the end. Gonna get an individual election. Okay, this goes to you. Here's your brand. Aaron, do you have it? Do the picture. We're gonna do individuals and then all together. Please remain there.
Mrs. Pazini, please come to the podium. On behalf of the board and administration, thank you for your 4 years of service to our district.
An individual for Linda? Thank you.
Lastly, but certainly not least, Ms. Christina Melton, please come to the podium. And again, on behalf of the administration and school board, we thank you for your 4 years of service to our district.
Christina, your picture first. Thank you. Okay, and then we'll go. Thank you. Boxes. Jump right out. Okay, are we no? No, that one? We are good? Okay. All right, we're gonna give it one more roll with the video. So we'll get that up and going and we'll get that out. I'll make sure that all three of you, that shared directly with all three of you and Ms. Crew, if we can get it out, when we can get that going to the community to see that also. Then Mr. Rizzo and I are going to go back to our seat. And I'd like to ask if Mrs. Fazzini, do you have any remarks to make at this time?
Well, I sort of covered that last meeting, but I just want to thank everyone and especially who I work with on all the committees, the administration, the staff. I just think this is a great school district. it's really done so much for my family and for the community that I live in. And I really care about the students so much and the school district. And I just think stay engaged and be part of the process. And it's a great school district. That's all. I just really had a great 4 years. Thank you.
And thank you again for serving, for your time and dedication. And Mrs. Melton, do you have some remark?
Really to reiterate what Mrs. Fazzini said, I love the school district. I love, what the school district brings to our community, the sense of community in each of our buildings. I have been so fortunate and blessed to work with so many wonderful people here at the table, folks who, have moved on, but really have had such an influence on many of us. And, I look forward to, seeing Springford continue to move forward, continue to do great things. A new board is coming in with new ideas, and that's really exciting. Tonight's very bittersweet for me. It was a very difficult decision not to run this year, and I regret it immensely, but I know due to family circumstances, I didn't have any alternative. But this district is just so wonderful, and the staff, the teachers, the support, administration. It has just been my greatest pleasure and honor to work with all of you, and again with all of you here at the table. Thank you, and I wish you all well. And I know Springford will continue to be great.
Thank you, Mrs. Melton. Mr. DeBello, do you have some final remarks also for us this evening?
Actually, I'm going to cover a little bit of history. So tonight, this will be my last board meeting, and I'm leaving with leaving this board with two other awesome school board members, Christina Mountain and Linda Fazzini. It was a pleasure serving with you for the last 4 years. I really enjoyed working together with each of you, especially the past 2 years during these crazy times, and I'm sure you both will be missed by everyone. I have served with many amazing school board members over the years who were very educated, experienced, and knowledgeable. Those members included Julie Mullen, Attorney Bern Pettit, Don Heaney, Colleen Zazowski, Dave Schaefer, Mark Dennert, Kelly Spletzer, or Kelly Sargent, formerly known as Kelly Spletzer, Dr. Ed Dressler, and Clinton Jackson and Will Cromley. And of course, I have to mention my partner in crime and friend for several years, Joe Cerisi. We have been fortunate to work with an amazing and professional administration, along with the best teachers and support staff in the entire state. They are second to none, and the Springford community was and is very fortunate to have them part of the team. Without them, we would be nowhere. When Joe Cerisi and I came onto the board together in 2009, the district wasn't even ranked in the top 100 districts in the state. We were driven to accomplish one major initiative, and that was to raise the bar and make Springford one of the top districts in the state, where parents and businesses would move here from all over. Not only did we reach that goal, but we went further, and now the district is not only top in the state, but also in the top 5% nationally. There are so many accomplishments over the years, I could never mention them all now, but I did want to mention some very key and memorable successes. When I first came onto the board, we were working on the 2010 budget. I uncovered $11.8 million deficit. At that time, the district budget was roughly $125 million. We had to make some very tough decisions, some not popular, but nevertheless, we made them. We actually ended up with a budget that was roughly $4 million less than the previous year. Administration proposed that we needed to cut both the music program and the strings program, but Joe and I passionately refused to make those cuts. Both programs are extremely successful, in fact, award-winning. The strings program led to the high school having an awesome orchestra today. Joe and I even pushed for new band uniforms and instruments over the years. I proudly support these programs for years and will continue that support. We were also confronted with the option of closing Spring City Elementary School. Again, both Joe and I fought against closing that school. There was no way we would ever support that. The decisions we made and the strategies we put in place several years ago set the district on the path of being fiscally stable, even when other districts were going through very hard financial times and cutting programs. Speaking of Spring City, we implemented the first fully functioning hybrid learning program in the entire nation. It was a rough first year as we switched to a new learning model, but once off and running, it proved to be an excellent model for Spring City to the point that that school received both state and national recognition. We had state dignitaries visit the school as well as districts from around the country who then went on to successfully implement our model. We eventually implemented that same model at Royersford Elementary, as well as utilizing the same concepts throughout the district. During all that, we needed to hire a new superintendent and assistant superintendent. Fortunately, we were able to hire Dr. Gooden and Dr. Roach. Together, we were able to accomplish amazing things. They hired many excellent administrators and staff over the years, too many to mention, but we could never have accomplished what we did without their hard work, dedication, and believing what we could and wanted to become as a school district. Some other amazing accomplishments that I will never forget is we have had the lowest tax increases in the last 20 years. In fact, the average tax increase in the last 12 years has been 1.9%, which bringing it down from over 5%. The first time in Springford history, we had a 0% tax increase in 2017 and 18. I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit more. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. We created the International Global Studies Program, partnering with Acadia University, and we introduced Mandarin Chinese. We created the President's Council for members. We created a President's Council for members for the Home and School Association, Booster Music Association, which we would meet 3 times a year to talk about what was occurring in each of the groups. We created a council where we would meet with elected officials from Limerick, Upper Province, Royersford, and Spring City to discuss and provide updates of what was occurring in the communities. We also established strong working day-to-day relationships with our staff and theirs. We eliminated over 25 plus computer servers, moving to state-of-the-art technologies. This was accomplished utilizing my technology experience and hiring an expert from the industry. We created a student ambassador group from the recommendation from our student board. Following recommendations from staff, we created a student cafe in the high school media center, as well as building the innovation center. Both concepts, I believe, were introduced by Chad Brubaker. We had multiple town hall meetings for residents to listen to their concerns and issues. Joe and I created the onboard show on RCTV that aired each week, where the board president and vice president discussed issues facing the district, as well as provided updates. We changed the district healthcare plan to self-funded insurance, saving the district millions over the years. It was figured to save at least 10 million, if not more. Ern Pettit, Joe Cerisi, Dr. Gooden, and myself met in person with the President of Ireland, the Prime Minister of Ireland, and the Ireland Secretary of Education, as well as the U.S. Ambassador to Ireland, to discuss the Limerick to Limerick exchange program and cross-cultural educational opportunities. We also toured Dell's Global Customer Support Center, which was focused on providing education-specific technical environments. That was the start of the modernized learning concept. It was a trip to Ireland that I can never forget, and we paid for the trip ourselves. No district funds were used except for Dr. Gooden. We increased enrollment at the Western Career and Technology Center by over 40% after rebranding the school. The district 8th grade center was awarded the National Blue Ribbon status, first time in district history. We implemented and rolled out modernized learning district-wide, providing computers for all Springford students. The program integrated technology with curriculum in the classroom. Again, very innovative concept, and was very necessary why we had to do virtual last year. We created and rolled out the K through 12 STEM program across the district, which now has received national awards and recognition. We increased AP classes from 11 to 24. We introduced the now widely known signing day for students who are entering college, military, trade schools, or going straight into the workforce. We revitalized the Arboretum at the 9th grade center, partnering with Gail Wellington and community members. If you haven't been there, it's worth a stroll. Gail did an amazing job leading that effort. I was executive board member of Montgomery County Intermediate Unit for 11 years, serving as the board president, vice president, treasurer, as well as board past president. Enhanced building security at all our schools. Also implemented one of the top school police departments in the entire state, rated by niche.com as a top 1% safest school districts nationally. We expanded the high school, adding additional space for performing arts and physical education. We came in under budget, all while hiring a new director of facilities, Robert Hunter. We were even able to purchase a video scoreboard that parents loved during graduation. They were able to clearly see their kids receiving their diplomas as we broadcast on the video board. And we ran SOAR to the restroom facilities, the baseball stadium. We've restructured the business office operations following more of a corporate structure by hiring a CFO, control, and staff accountant. Heading up that new structure is our CFO, Jim Fink. Jim has done an amazing job fulfilling our biggest goal of having a 7-year rolling budget forecast. This was necessary to keep Springford financially stable and fiscally responsible. We eliminate all wasteful spending. We kept tax increases as low as possible, and we included strategic bond management within that. We were able to even give SNAP $10,000 over 1 year when they fell short raising money that needed for their annual after prom event. Along with Mr. Fink, Dr. Good, and myself, we presented this new business operation structure at the annual PSBA conference in 2016. Several school districts reached out to Mr. Fink and or myself afterwards, asking many questions related to how they can replicate what we did. Finally, I have to mention Diane Fern. She was amazing and was extremely helpful and loved basically by everyone. During the 5 times I was the board president, Diane made it so easy for me. She was a wealth of knowledge, and if she didn't know it, she had the answers sometimes within minutes. She was a true asset to Springford, and I wish her well in her retirement. I will miss many things, including meeting with the support staff each year, finding ways to provide necessary tools and resources for our teachers and students, attending and supporting all events, and just be a driving force to make Springford the best district possible. I most certainly will miss all the parents I was able to help over the years navigate through issues they were having within the district. No matter what, I will continue to support the Springford community, and I wish all future boards well. We succeed as one, and one we are all Springford proud. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. DeVello. And boy, that is definitely a recap of history for the last several years. And as I said earlier, it's my honor and privilege to have served the last 6 years with you, Mr. DeVello, and the last 4 with, well, the last 2, I guess, with Christina, and last 4 with Christina and Linda. Yes, so thank you. And again, I wish you the best of luck going forward to all of you. And with that, I will make sure, as I said, that the video does get out there also to be shared with each of you and then to be shared with the community. And with that, we will now move into the rest of the agenda. We have the minutes, A and B. So move. For a second? Second. Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Personnel A through K, separate H. So A through K, separate H. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. H, is there a motion?
We separate one of the positions out of all those.
I believe we can. I did confer with Mr. Fitzgerald that we can
Yeah,
separate.
you can do that. You can do that.
Thank you. So we'll take out the position for basketball coach.
How do you know that's what I was going to say?
I'm reading your mind. Or no, am I wrong? No. Okay, that's correct. Okay, so we'll take out the position for the basketball coach and the rest of H. Is there a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. So this is now personnel H, basketball coach position only. Is there a high school basketball position, boys high school basketball coach position? Is there a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. So Laurie, do you need me to do roll call on that, or were you able to get it? You got it? Okay. 6-3, so that motion does carry. And finance, A through I, is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Property A and B, is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Programming and curriculum, A through C, we're going to separate D, A through C. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Sorry, I didn't ask for questions or comments. Let me go back to that. I rushed that a little bit. A through C, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Let's retake the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the motion carries for A through C. And then we have D. Is there a motion for D?
So moved.
And
Second.
remember, please, just as a reminder, this is the agenda item that we adjusted or amended in the beginning of the meeting. So we have a first and a second. Are there questions or comments?
Could you please reread the full
Really?
item? I'm sorry, but just,
It's fine, it's fine. Okay. Administration recommends the approval of the district learning loss plan and budget as presented. The district learning loss plan is not to exceed $1,210,530 and will be paid from the ARP ESSER grant. $871,755 previously allocated, plus $338,775 in new funds from the 7% set aside grant recently awarded. The learning loss plan includes the following: summer RAMs, up to $800,000. Summer school supports for ELD and Educare, not to exceed $90,165. Gateway, not to exceed $42,000. SEL emotional support, $72,595. SEL training, not to exceed $25,050. After-school tutoring, $48,396. And a research-based math and reading intervention program at $132,324. One of the questions that I raised immediately with Mrs. Fazzini and Dr. Murray was about the iReady that had been in here. So it's not in here at this time because, Dr. Murray, do you want to extend for the board and the community?
Sure. At this point, based on, some of the feedback and the comments, just taking that all into consideration, we thought it would be best to pump the brakes on this piece, just to make sure that we are looking at all options before asking the board to dip into the fund balance. So at this point, what we're saying is that we are not naming a specific program at this time. But what we want to do is go back to the film committee and discuss again the viable options and really see if we can seek additional options that wouldn't be such a significant impact on the fund balance. The language that's included in this that indicates that we'd be selecting a research-based program would indicate how we're intending to use the funds. But this language is from the grant, which requires us to ensure that any program that we use is a research-based program, and the grant details that piece. So no decisions would be made on that specific program without conversation at the curriculum level, or the curriculum committee level first, and then board approval. So it's just giving us the okay to go ahead and use it for those reasons. But again, to circle back to the curriculum committee and have further discussions on what are the any other options that may reduce that amount.
Correct. And one of my questions was, I think last week and this week, and it's been in the curriculum meetings, with the iReady. If we wanted to pay a much higher ticket price than we did last year for the summer program, we still could technically do that without doing the day-to-day, which we would have been taking from the fund balance, correct?
Correct. And I can share all of those costs too when we come back at curriculum committee, so you know exactly kind of the bigger picture with it. So you have more options.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have some questions or comments about?
Do you have a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, who made the motion? Mrs. Earl made the motion, Mrs. Fazzini seconded. Questions or comments? Christina asked me to read it. Okay, I'm just following it too. Dr. Murray expanded on it. And are there any other questions or comments?
Dr. Murray, so when you provided us the presentation last week, you had shown us all the different categories that you have to hit, especially as you're moving forward with this grant proposal. By making this change, are you still able to accomplish everything you need to accomplish for your application for the grants?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll go to the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. And then we'll go to conferences and workshops, A through E. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Then other business. We're going to do A through D. Is there a motion?
B is first reading.
Oh, let me go back. Sorry about that. Good catch. So we're looking, yes, B 1 through 9. So we're looking at A, C, and D. A, C, and D. Is there a motion for A, C, and D?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Under new business, we are not doing E, so we are only here for F. Is there a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor of F, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Any board comment this evening?
Briefly, sorry. So to the three of you that are leaving, there's a part of me that is incredibly jealous, but also sad at the same time. This has been, I feel like I'll have a connection with the three of you forever. We can say, do you remember those days, right? Favorably, no matter how difficult things were. I really appreciate your service. For somebody that this is third generation of my family going through this district. My father, not only graduated with my mom, but taught his entire career and still serves the district. Thank you for your care. That's why I'm here. I do care about this school district and I've witnessed it. So there's been certainly, listen, you can't serve on the school board without having disagreements, and that's part of it. I've appreciated sitting up here with you all. And so thank you. Tom, well, and also just jokingly, mildly, I would be the eldest statesman on the board once you're gone. So we're frightening. But when I came on for my first term in 2006, I witnessed, both Joe Cerisi and Tom coming in with a great vision. And, without question, this school system is in a better spot. And so, Diane, to you, I know you're out there. Thank you for supporting and being without Tom for Lord knows how many hours in all of those accomplishments. So thank you very much. It takes a tremendous amount of support on the home front to do this. You're missing time away. I thought about how could I appropriately say thank you. I've even asked, people, and the best way is to sincerely acknowledge that we're in a better spot. And Tom, this is there's something I think wrong or right with all of us that decide to choose to be on a school board. I've really appreciated your knowledge around the personnel and the financial. There's going to be a big hole here. And, I'm sincerely thankful for all of the work that you put in, and we'll miss serving with you. So again, thank you. And Diane, thank you.
Ms. Fazzini, I would like to thank you for serving on committees with me. I would thank you for being a steady hand on property. Sometimes when I got out of control, you were always able to reel me back in. Ms. Melton, you always ask the strong questions at budget, and that will be missed. But I've enjoyed working with both of you over the last 4 years. Mr. DeBello, Mr. DeBello, Mr. DeBello. Where do I start? I think I start in short story here. 2009, Tom and I met at the Limerick Diner. That was the meeting to determine to run for school board. And we were both asking ourselves, what are we doing here? And it was, we had decided to run for school board. That time, Mrs. Bello was successful, I wasn't, but we have remained within the same circle. I would like to thank you for your 12 years of service here. Board service is the toughest job. It really is. And, the last 2 years have made it even tougher. You took on your board duties with dedication, grace. Some would say bull in a china shop, but I say grace and seriousness. We've been together for 8 years now. And I've enjoyed our time on finance, our disagreements on finance, but at the same time, we wanted what was best for the district. And I think you referenced the tax increase or the lack thereof is a strong reflection of that. Property, we've gone back and forth, but you serve property. And when you think about this, it's 12 years. That's over a decade that you've given your time to this district. And the community doesn't understand that all of this time, this is from Ms. Fazzini and Ms. Melton also, it goes beyond what we're doing here now. It goes beyond when you're missing dinners with the family, you're missing an activity with the kids. It is a big commitment. We talk about growth of the district, and I remember 2009, and I remember where we are now, and the district is a better place because of the three of you. A real small example. If you look at our developers, and I noticed this when I used to serve on the Upper Providence Planning and Zoning Board, when you see the builders' little placards, what's the first thing you see up there? Springfield Food District. And that is a tribute to Mr. DeBello, Ms. Melton, and Ms. Fazzini, and board members. So, Mr. DeBello, I thank you for your time. I will miss our breakfast at Lakeview Cafe, but we can try to keep those, and I'm sure Diana would be happy with that. Around. But again, thank you to all of you. I really appreciate your help, and good luck going forward. Thank you.
Oh, to Linda and to Christina, with an A on the end, and to Tom DeBello, I do thank you for the mentorship and for the opportunity to work with you. I have great respect for what you brought to the district. And I appreciate the personal sacrifice that you made to be a part of this. And you will be missed, your contribution. So thank you very much.
I don't know what I can say that hasn't already been said, but I have appreciated your mentorship and even and friendship. And we didn't all always agree on what the final votes would be, but I think that we worked it out pretty well and understand where everybody was coming from. And I really appreciate the knowledge that you offered walking in the door and having a month and a half of normal school board before COVID. So I really thank you for your help, and you will all be missed.
Thank you. And Mrs. Sullivan, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Would you like to make any remarks to our outgoing board members?
Yes, I would. I would like to thank all of you, and I have greatly admired the amount of knowledge and history. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Well, I'm not done because I can so well remember that when I came to my first board meeting as a member, that Christina stayed for at least an hour after the meeting, just talking to me, explaining some things to me, kind of filling me in and giving me some advice that I've kept close to me ever since. And Linda, it's just been a pleasure working with you. And Tom, although we haven't, spent a lot of time together, I greatly admire the amount of knowledge and dedication that you have had all these years to the school board. And that includes, I have 3 children that went through Springford during your term. So I appreciate all of you. I wish you all the best and enjoy your free time.
All right, thank you. Thank you to all of you that said so many kind things. And, I'll just reiterate that I wish you all the best. And you're welcome to come back, because I know you'll be missing us too. We've been together, really, really together for a chunk of time. So this is not goodbye, but see you later. I think we'll go with that.
I just want to thank everybody for all of your kind words and again, you all have been fabulous to work with, and you'll continue to do amazing things and keep the district moving forward. So thank you for all the sentiments. We appreciate it immensely.
Okay, so is there any other board comment this evening? I think that really captures where we are tonight. Oh, Mr. Jackson?
Well, we don't meet again until January 17th. I was just looking at my notes over a couple of months ago. So we can expect an update on our EDI on the 17th. Just want to keep it on everybody's radar. If that's what we were told.
Yes, for January. We hadn't established one, but if the 17th is when you'd prefer, we want to coordinate that with whatever budget presentation will be in January.
Yes, that would be.
Thank you.
And also then the update as Dr. Giambattista, if we could get anything else in January also on that. And we will meet in December to do a reorganization meeting also, but it won't be a full-fledged board meeting. Okay, all right, so any other board comment? Then moving on to public to be heard. I am going to take the any comments on Zoom first. As I said, last week I did in person both times first, and I want to make sure that I balance. So do we have
There-
anyone on the Zoom?
There are no public comments on Zoom.
I'm sorry?
There are no public comments on Zoom.
I'm closing Zoom then for public comment at this time. Anyone in the room, please remember to state your name and at least your township, town, reference something like that for me, please. I need it for the meeting minutes.
Hey guys, Kathy Morris, 420 Church Street, Royersford.
couple quick thank yous, actually. A thank you to Dr. G for coming up and giving a little presentation tonight where the Parents Alliance group stands.
Maybe you could pull the mic up a little bit. It's really low from when I was there. Thanks.
Is that better? Okay. I want to thank Dr. G for coming up and speaking even before she officially started with the district. She was willing to jump in and help form this Parent Alliance. So we greatly appreciate it. All of the special ed supervisors who took the time, Nancy Chrisman, Dr. Rizzo, thank you for giving the parents an opportunity to be heard. That's a large part of the community that appreciates it. And lastly, to Tom DeBillo, I only started watching the school board meetings in July of 2020. My daughter just started kindergarten, and it was quite a time. So I appreciate everything that you all have done. But, you know, meeting after meeting, no one was really bringing up the special ed community, the learning loss that was about to happen, and we all see did happen. And I decided, let's shoot an email out, let's see what happens. And 2 people responded, and Tom was one of them. And I just sincerely thank you for that, because I feel like it really got the ball rolling to a bunch of things that are going to start happening in the district for that community. And as election time rolled on, I started reading more and more about just all the different things you have done. And it started clicking to me why so many people had told me, like, your daughter's going to be in great hands at Springford. And it's really to, you know, the hard work you put in, as well as the other board members. So I just really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
James Sharma, 199 North Road, trying to make this quick. Fun facts of the week: Pennsylvania judge says the order to wear a mask inside the school expires December 4th. 4 out of 5 judges ruled mandate illegal in Pennsylvania. November 17th, court orders Pennsylvania school board to allow critics to speak. House Republican Jason Gottsman said local choice on masks should be made right away because it breaks the law. Now to the Springford lie to the community. A student at Springford told me a story. We will call him student 17. 17 goes to the nurse after playing video games all night and then forced to wear a mask all night. 17 now has a headache. 17 goes to the nurse for a few aspirins. Nurse tells him, no, you have COVID symptoms. 17 laughs it off and says, no, it's just from being up all night and getting a little sleep. The fascist nurse needs to fill her COVID quota for the week and tells him, no, it's quarantine for you and the PCR test. This is your spread. The so-called COVID symptoms are from wearing a mask too long. In this experiment, COVID has never been present, but the masks have been. So any scientist would tell you, since COVID was never isolated and thus never proven to exist, it is the mask causing the problems. You're all guilty of trying to spread this fear throughout the community. As a Marine, I deliver fear and don't succumb to it. So trying to push this fear to me and my family, my computer, is totally useless. We, the people of the community, are tired of school boards breaking the law without impunity and are here to tell you it stops here. Vaccines, masks, PCR tests, quarantine kids, all needs to stop. All of these things are part of the pharmaceutical propaganda machine being totally pushed by pharmaceutical companies and local public servants like all of you. This is where all of you are guilty of abusing kids. So Linda, David, Diane, Clinton, Tom, Wendy, Colleen, Christina, and Margaret should all resign only after you fire the solicitor and never return to politics for your participation in these illegal experiments on our children. You never had or have any of our consent to perform these illegal experiments on children. Why do you think parents bring up the Nuremberg Code, civil laws, discrimination laws, and just common sense? You don't tell any American how to raise children, period. Any medical information should be between a doctor, a parent, and the kid only. This is where it stops, not here at the Springford School Board meeting. Pay the teachers, keeps the lights on, and shut up. Stop lying to the community and stop allowing these discriminations to go on. Remember, 2 weeks is slow to spread. We have all been lied to. Stop being the liars. To all of you who won't be here the next school board meeting, remember you have all failed. And when the day of judgment comes, you will be back to face charges of child abuse and your crimes lying to the community and for freedom of speech. Liars, all of you are liars. And to all of you who try to continue to lie and spread this fear, the front line is here. As a Marine, I know bullies when I see them. I am here to tell you and remind you of your oath. Adults bullying kids is the worst kind of people. To the staff of Springford, any enforcement of the mask after December 4th is 100% illegal. To all the parents who have been in the fight, God sees all of you and are trying to protect the children. Keep it up. And to everyone here tonight, thank you for the support and thank you to the Limerick Township who had to leave in the Limerick Police Department in this fight to help
Okay,
this
thank you.
madness in our schools and our community to stop.
Thank you. Are there any other comments in the room? Motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Meeting adjourned.